Welcome to another edition of the Light Talk. Really glad that you all would be here today with us. So just to very briefly introduce what Light Talk is. It's an initiative by the Innovative Design Group, designed to spark meaningful conversations and to deepen the understanding around the world of lighting. We're incredibly grateful to have with us a fantastic panel, so thank you all of you for being with us today. And of course, our lovely moderator, Rati, owner, editor of The Ideal Home and Garden. Thank you so much. We're really glad you could make it today. So before we begin, we really like to focus on the session being engaging. So I would really encourage you to ask questions and, whatever thoughts you have in your mind, to please freely discuss it with them towards the end of the conversation. And yep, I'm sure it will be another, very insightful light talk. So over to you, Rati.
Thank you. Please come on, nudging me about the time because I'll lose. Okay. So, firstly, thank you so much for coming here and Vikram for organizing and ITG. I have never met all of you, so for me it's a big honor. It truly is, and you saying yes meant a lot. I flew down from Bombay. I was really excited. Like nothing else for me, it was that I have to meet the four of you. Of course, Vikram and Preeti have met before, the family. A quick introduction. Sonali Bhagwati needs no introduction, but I'll still make an introduction. It's a small story. I told my intern to, message you, Jarjo, that she just kept on checking with me again and again, saying, "It is the Sonali Bhagwati." And I'm like, yes. And she has got nothing to do with interior. She's in fashion. She's just 20 years old. And I think she suddenly thought I am cooler because I am meeting you. So thank you for that. Sonali Bhagwati is recognized for, DPA is the firm, and she's recognized for its innovative and sustainable designs, seamlessly integrating traditional and contemporary designs together, functionality. Sumit Dhawan is a prominent Indian architect renowned for, again, his innovative designs and eclectic facades, I hear. Sumit's portfolio includes, which might fascinate you, designing celebrity homes like cricketer Yuvraj Singh and Gautam Gambhir, amongst other things. I'm sure you don't like it that every time people are only emphasizing on that. But there's also associations with DLF, Fancy Group, and MGF. Vikrant Sharma, next to me, is the founding partner and principal architect at Hive. It's a design firm, multidisciplinary design firm based in Gurgaon. Hive has developed a diverse portfolio that includes farmhouses, luxury interiors, offices, and cafes. Am I right? Okay. Last but not the least is Madhav Raman, renowned for co-founding Anagram Architects. Under Madhav's leadership, Anagram is globally recognized for its sustainable, context-driven designs, even earning an Aga Khan Award nomination in 2010. I was chatting with him for a while. I understand he's not just there's so many interesting things that Madhav is,
Big hair, so many hats.
Yeah, absolutely, I'll agree with that. Pandit Vikram Jain is the force behind Innovative Design Group. He's everything lighting. I think his name should have been Deepak and not Vikram. Because once he starts talking about lights, he just doesn't end. Decades of experience. He's all about blending tech, design, and a bit of magic to transform spaces. That's what we are talking about today. Don't make him pour drinks for you. You will not go,
I guess Sumit would say the thing.
Yeah. I've been at the end of it, and I know, don't make him pour any drinks for you at all. That's a warning. Okay, so what are we discussing today? The subject is Spatial Alchemy. The convergence of artificial and natural light is all about how lighting transforms spaces. A bit of our introduction before that about me. My name is Rati Chaudhary. I am an ex-journalist. For 10 years, I've worked with Times of India, CNN, IB, and I used to cover technology at that time. Then I got into corporate jobs, but I just didn't enjoy it. I was miserable there because I was missing the creative spark. Last year, Ideal Home and Garden, I don't know if you're familiar with the magazine, it was with Next Gen Publishing House earlier. They had shut down in 21. I saw an opportunity because there were still a lot of followers and content is gold. Last year, I acquired it from Next Gen Publishing House, and let's see what happens now. I don't know. But it's been fun in 1 year. So here we are. I mostly work with interior designers more and less architects, but we're expanding. and this is one step in that direction. Okay, so what is spatial alchemy? It's the art of transforming spaces through lighting. Much like an alchemist would, change metal into gold. So how, it's about the right mix of natural light and artificial light, and that's what we are talking about today. Vikram, would you like to say a couple of, lines about just why we're here and what are we discussing so that 10%?
So for me, lighting can kind of transform any space. And I personally feel that, of course, there's nothing better than natural light. I'm into lighting, but nothing better than natural light. Nothing at all. Yes, but then you do have time when the natural light is not there. And that is the time when you would really want the space to transform based on the artificial lighting that we use. So it plays a very important role in probably our lives and transforming spaces. Architecture cannot be revealed, whether it is interior or exterior, it cannot be revealed without lighting. So I think it forms a very essential part as far as revealing architecture is concerned. So yeah, that's it.
Great. So to begin with, there are questions, but I don't want. I wanted to tone to be casual and engaging. So just some icebreaker questions. What's the most dramatic lighting fail you have ever seen? Who wants to start? Fail. It could be yours or it could be someone else's, but it was dramatic.
To speak to my own. No, I think this was very early in our career. I think part of our discussion was about this. Lighting is quite a technical field. And if you're not invested in the technicality, it create a lot of issues. So I remember when we started off lighting, luckily we learned lighting through our work when we were designing sets for television. So very early in our career, we started off by designing sets for television. The thing is, the way lighting works for sets is very different how it works for architecture. It's equally different for interior design. So I remember one time, at that time, I think this was a very big problem. There was a sort of burst of using color inside bombs and stuff. And there was a big thing at that time of doing wall washes. And wall washes is a very technical thing. And I still remember this time when we thought we had it covered, everything was perfect. And then we turned the lights on and we realized we had the awful cones of light that it and those scallops at that time, remember that it was a very touch and go thing technically. So then you have to go through this entire thing of convincing the client, no, that's exactly what we want.
And get some artwork.
So then the idea was like, now why have you done this? Precisely for this reason. So that then you can have those cones. So I think we've come a fair bit in terms of lighting technology now, and also how the sort of the technical vocabulary versus the design vocabulary. There's been many bridges built now thanks to the technology that's changed. So a lot of this kind of stress is not there. There's a lot more dependability on how a light will, how you conceive of something and how it actually gets made. And then of course there are always irritation.
Okay. So
I want to add that, lighting again can make or break a place. And nowadays this trend has started, what I call the Mickey Mouse lighting for facades and for buildings. So one, you have the good lighting, and the second is you have the Mickey Mouse lighting.
You call it Mickey Mouse, I call it Panthera. Because she was in the Delhi Urban Arts Commission. She had to approve possibly many heavy schemes of public buildings in central Delhi. Now there will be exactly what you're talking about.
So if you see, a lot of the public buildings which are supposed to be the pride of a city, land up looking like a bordello or something, in the sense that they've got this weird red, green, RBT changing anything and everything everywhere.
The Panthera package?
Yeah.
Or actually not Panthera, that toffee that used to be pan flavored. Panthera. There's this sort of pink-green combination.
So this is that. I don't even want to name anything, but some few prominent buildings in public sector buildings in Delhi. Recently in the last 3-4 years have been lit, and it's like going wild, It's really going wild.
Aren't you, Sonali, one of those people who start like the color trend in like in commercial buildings?
And like in Bombay, if you see the Rajabai Tower, which is so beautifully done, it's done by somebody I know. She's been the designer. And if you see another building, I think one of the other heritage buildings in the same vicinity, which is like going from red to green to blue to yellow to whatever,
I think we're talking about the
And
British
it's
section.
kept flat lighting. It doesn't highlight any of the beautiful, cornices, beautiful elements. It's just flatly floodlighting and into, color changing. So I'm just saying that it's like you feel so bad that it's such wonderful opportunities lost.
Yeah.
So that's what it is.
Not just that, I think to add to it, even the skyline of Delhi, it's changed to India ka chanda. All street lights. You will see those politically managed, ugly looking. I'm so sorry to say it. I'm very patriotic.
I'm sorry.
No. But the way they are doing it,
Sumit, I'm making
is spoiling the
average really workers.
Those things were.
they powered up one prototype for, and I think it's a more than anything, it's a political move.
This is the point I was trying to make. I think it's this idea of looking at urban space as an event, as opposed to looking at urban space with some sort of long-term understanding of what it means to a city and its value.
No, I also take some part of it back to this whole government policy of going with the L1, which I have always been vehemently opposed to, because when you are talking of quality,
Lowest tender.
lowest tender. Yeah. Now you go and somebody has given you an L1, then he does what he wants and end of story, because nobody knows any better.
Yeah.
So that's the whole thing. So it starts with getting the right people involved, getting the sensitivity, understanding the good and the bad, or the right or the wrong, or whatever.
Government also doesn't have the capacity, expertise.
They don't have.
So DOAC is one. It's a very small body of 4 people, which is the only sort of aesthetic.
But you know what happens in UAC, Madhav, I'll tell you, which is where I felt really helpless, because if something comes which, one is when something is grossly off, then you can make a comment.
Yeah.
But otherwise, who is to say my aesthetics is better than yours?
It's subjective.
It's a subjective thing. I cannot say that, I could only point out the objective stuff which is not okay.
Right.
But somebody says red, green, blue is really good. And I'm saying it's not good now.
Yeah.
Where does this go?
Yeah.
So this has been a big dichotomy in this whole concept.
We were doing a project, so we were specifically told, it was a government project, we were specifically told, we need to have, whatever you do, everything is fine, but we need to have an Indian flag and we need to have color on it. And the Indian flag used to come off probably every day, like the Republic Day in the evening and so on. It was like, it's just not practically possible. I mean, how do? You need to understand how the Indian flag is. Just by putting red, green and saffron, right? Saffron, white and green, you're not going to create a flag. But then we were told, no, just put the 3 colors, that's about it. And then you were also asked to focus with the projector, VB, with the 26. So that was funny, but sometimes.
No, this is not going right. I think because then it becomes an event type of living.
Exactly.
Right. The thing is that as a city or even in a home or something, like if you look at a home, right? When you have a party like a Diwali party or something, that's when you try and transform the way the house looks. But purely by lighting, right?
Yeah.
And in fact, ritually, the act of lighting up a building is culturally what we do for Diwali. Like there's this idea of, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
It's not a technical performance-based thing. It's you're trying to transform your. But if every night was Diwali night, you get migraine, and this is the nuance that I think, because the decision making is left to a combination of political authorities and bureaucratic authorities.
Nothing to do with any aesthetics.
So there is no political aesthetic, like one defined, okay, this is the government's aesthetic, right? Which the bureaucrats are briefed from, that this is how you must do. So what is now the pressure in the bureaucrats have to perform like performing monkeys. They have to keep flipping until they feel we landed on our feet. And that's why they hedge their pets. They say, give us all 7 colors. We put it on a cycle.
That's exactly the way it is. That's exactly the way it is. You actually told that.
So while we can control lighting in our private spaces, it's the government and the public domain, which is what is the most visually large. And that's where there is no control. Yeah, and that's where there is no control.
Sumit, you wanted to say something?
Really, adding to a failure, it wasn't really a failure. It's a good example of what we people as architects are trying to do. But most of the time, even by corporates, we are funded it. So we did an office for Coke in Lucknow. And as discussed, as stated always, go for efficiency. So the last level we propose 300, 325, which is acceptable globally by all standards. We did that. And imagine a brand like Coke coming back to us and complaining, ये तो कम 4,000, ये क्या फिर कौन? So let's take 25. So stay. I said, as per the global standards, this is perfect. And we had to literally show them, we had to prove to them. The bit literally came to us that you guys literally kind of ignored this part. And it was so unfortunate, and we felt, ज़्यादा ही देख के आते हो. But that's so in contrast to what is expected out of us. So that's how I felt a little down, and I was like, I mean, इतना effort करने के बाद भी अगर गाली पड़ता है, so rather not do it. And then when we checked, their last office had a last level of 650. So from 650 to 328 to like for what? Then it was a big difference. But once we put it, at least, I mean, we were safe. Otherwise, Coke as a brand is unhealthy. So I was but so that happened recently. So that was coming to my mind when she asked about the failure after.
No, but we have also gone through this, what you're saying. So now, as a rule, we always look at on the desk itself at 400. And then it can be differential going down, public areas can be treated differently, but the work area, because we've also gone through the same story,
I give you another example where this technical aspects of lighting makes a huge difference in terms of, especially like say workspaces, right? Commercial workspaces. So we transitioned from incandescent to fluorescence to X, right? The technology is now LED technology, because by every virtue of energy performance, LED is for most efficient. However, with LED comes a flicker rate, which has to do with the birth cycle of which the light. Now, as like our route into commercial spaces will be to be sort of 24/7 office, right? Call center, this, that. Work, general tier 1 city work culture is fairly unevenly balanced around day and night. It's not like folks go all the time, go to work at 9 o'clock and come back by 6 o'clock. Still happen in smaller towns, but doesn't happen in big cities. That sheer contrast of whether you are, it creates work productivity problems, anxiety problems, burnout problems. Simply because you're spending, especially if you do these high-powered financial jobs, like the sort of tertiary sector jobs, which involve you sitting, having very stressful days, just continuously, nervously looking at a screen, whether it's at your personal device level or at a desktop level. Added to that, this sort of incredible problem of figure rates on legs. It's a huge work environment health issue, which actually doesn't get captured in any procurement conversation.
Never heard.
वो आपकी श्रद्धा है, आप डालो into the mix, and कई बार वो client के ऊपर से निकल जाता है. You know, they don't understand the why, but
care.
no, it's like they care, but it's
They don't have the knowledge about it. They don't have the knowledge.
They do not realize the value or the worth of this file.
It's like when we talk about designs to our clients today for energy efficiency reasons, for work environment reasons, we always say as much natural light as possible, right? So essentially, a lot of the office spaces now are very, very open plan, so that whatever windows you have, as many people can share their natural light as they can. The moment folks start doing a nocturnal shift in that office, right? That's when the sort of transition from day to evening, how do you manage that? What is the person who's working in that office going to be feeling like working late at night? No. And this thing about fatigue, eye fatigue, it's so into this relationship between art and visual and natural lighting in any space. Like even at home, we're spending or at night, yes. The same thing with liberates and stuff. Part of the technicality that doesn't discuss it.
That added to that, I mean, lighting has, from the beginning of the career, has been embarrassing because the lack of knowledge that we have when we start up as designers, every project is one embarrassing moment after the other because we have been taught to understand and design with natural light in our education. The importance of artificial light and how it kind of regulates your health and your well-being. Another, when you start
And it creates the quality of space.
So we are so, how to natural light, do sun direction, but the moment artificial lighting comes in, we have no application. Then we are again learning from our experiences, interacting with lighting designers, interacting with vendors. It's a continuous mistake, one project after the other. Like now also make the ready project, you're still learning. It's like that.
You say, of course, we're talking about a balance between artificial and natural light. Now with so much technology, and as you said, the technology is transforming, is it getting better or is it getting worse?
Well, the technology is definitely improved. The only thing is just how much of it being implemented. As we were talking, we're still talking about going in one. We're always talking about prices, cost. With technology also comes the cost. How much of cost we're willing to pay for implementing that technology. That's a very important factor. And the second thing is just that people are not so open to utilizing the technology as well. They're still closed into the, for them it's, so, and that's part of us because we as vendors, we typically go, the language we talk in, right, that will probably also Louis. That this is what, this is this way watch, this is this way Louis. So people don't understand that that's not what we are looking at. Or as design, that's not what we are doing. So that's the place where we all go wrong. And then people who are, like even in public parents, people who are buying, they don't have any money for their life. They are just buying based on what's the price. So it does not make a difference. Very recently, we happened to go for a residential project, and we tried to explain everything related to color, related to light, related to quality of light, control of light, everything. The person just comes back and tells us, you know what, this thing is available for next month. You have 5 times the cost. I can replace my fixture. I said, we're not even talking replacement. He said, light is light. And that's the time.
It's very difficult and you feel frustrated.
Exactly. So we just said, okay, fine. There's no point. I mean, it's better not to bang your database or what. We just came out.
Well, it's like each light fixture is a little technology module.
Yes.
So it has some hardware, performance, everything built into that, but especially with LEDs, I interchange these things. It's up built as a unit. The problem is, as all of us get involved in projects at a larger scale, for everyone other than the designer involved in the project, it becomes a number of units here. This price point पे ये सब मिल रहा है, I take all the boxes, I bought online cases, and the struggle to wind that back and say, oh, this specific, like this is your entrance space, this should be the way it should be anchored. That sort of next level discussion is essentially internal to the design team.
Yeah.
Whatever the design team justifies with it inside. And then you push it down the product funnel. You say that you have to then almost जिद करना पड़ता है कि ये वाला product ही चाहिए, you know, and that's when designers get a bad rep. This of the inflexible and physique, but there's no other logical way of proceeding.
Also, what happens is that in any interior space, one might just be as little visual noise as possible in the ceilings. So we are always looking for that kind of product, which of course is one is performance. Secondly, you do not see the light source. So that is the whole technical aspect where the kind of diffusion it has, the color render it has, the how it sort of does not hit your eye, to what angle. So there are so many such things, and I'm not even getting into any big technicalities. These are just more to do with design and aesthetics, and these things are the ones that actually will start determining the price of a product. I mean, obviously, each unit, as he said, is a technical unit, and there is a lot of R&D and prototyping that has gone in somewhere, wherever this has been made. And I think there has to be some. I mean, they come up with this for a reason, because it has worked, it has performed over a period of time before it's been put in the market. And I think there is something to say for that.
I'll give you a good example of this. Health facilities, right?
Yes.
Now, there is a fair bit of real estate motivation in developing health facilities, especially large specialty hospitals. Or specialty hospital which we were kind of involved in is like, say, a veterinary hospital. Okay? Now, in a health facility, as a designer, your immediate entry is with the person who's using the facility for ill health. That is the patient. Right? Now, typical thing she mentioned, serious, the sleep is that the most critical person in your user pool is going to be horizontal on a stretcher. Like, their entire perception of what's happening around them is based on how they see when they look up. Right? So it's, but the discussion in the design is what is the luminous level on the surface. It's not got to do with whether if I look up, does that give me a glare, or even the amount of stress, especially like today the route from pref to OT. Right? It's all performance led. It's all meant for the doctors. Not one thought is spared for the person who be really bored. And it's actually very, very stressful because of that glare.
Yeah. In fact, to add to it, problem a lot of times with selection of the product is let's say we recommend brand A, the clients will come up with an alternate, which is a three of
And not equal.
and here is the sun. So to which now we started requesting them that let's do a physical move. And somehow we are able to convince them now that see, there is a difference. Just by the looks you cannot finalize a brand. And most of these brands would be from China or Bhagirath Palace or whatever. And they are claiming, so many you guys are trying to fool us. I mean, they feel that they are better than us.
Even your Raman multi-brand dealer is actually trying to get, so whether it's residential or hospitality or offices or whatever, it's actually the sale that is being made that is deciding what is the brand, not the performance. And in the performance aspect of it, the investment that you put in must be justified with the longevity of that investment. But like I said, eventually it all blurs, especially when there are these large orders, right, for commercial spaces, for hotels, for apartment complexes and stuff. The guys who introduce this and or equivalent brand in the POQ, right? So you specify a brand, and by the time it goes through the TMC or whatever, whoever is making it gets this and or equivalent comes in, and then suddenly the universe is open to
No, but now what we had started doing is not say equivalent, but actually say
what
we want. Because then it's a apple to apple kind of a comparison. You're not doing apple to oranges.
Well, I know folks who are involved seriously in lighting spend a lot of time traveling the world, determining who what are the brands that they want to work with, essentially for various reasons, for aesthetic reasons, for performance reasons, for delivery reasons. There are different categories by which you would choose your lights, right? But to jump all down into like ये दिखने में बढ़िया लग रहा है. And I was telling him that very often the decision, especially in residences, is forced down this funnel where you don't even bother to look at the light as a light. You start looking at it only as a sculpture.
Yeah.
So I have seen situations where guys have been showing me with my client showroom, the light is off. And they're saying, ये model है, वो model है. या बत्ती कौन है?
फोन में दिखाती
Exactly, phone में देखो, ये model है.
Light on the phone and colors on the phone are two things which I have never understood. Like, what? How can you do this?
I've even seen people, getting lux levels on phone, right? Which is like, you've got right meters to kind of calculate that. So you can't do that. Another thing adding to this, we talked about CRI, right? So one of the interesting things is, because we've been trying to explain this to people for a long time, especially with residential spaces, color is one of the most important factors, right? And we all talk about CRIs. This was a very, very old standard. It's totally changed because CRI was technically only for 8 colors. And when we talk about those 8 colors, they were all non-saturated colors. And that's not what we see in our life, right? So people or vendors like us, they would typically go to the market, you know what? You're doing a 95 CRI product, a 90 CRI product. It does not have the 2 color characteristics of the product. And then when you get the product, you see probably things like marble as yellow, or probably red is not the red that you're looking at, or blue is again looking so blackish. So it's something wherein again boils down to the cost part of it, because it's not compared in terms of what the product is, but what the cost of the product should be. So that's the
There's like one other thing that if you look at how people's choices others for spaces, various spaces. There are various. So, for example, say about 5 years back, there was a lot of tone sort of beige, especially in the hospital, like rooftop hospitals, hotels and stuff. Because hotels generally don't want to take too strong aesthetic light, because now over is spend the Now, in that, there was a lot of problems with the space being too bright because of the sort of light palette convergence. Now, I'm finding a lot of, especially workspaces and all, we are defining, and this is jumping to the idea of light and shadow, is that we're focusing much more on how black is the black. Like when you make dark spots in the office, what is that color temperature of that? Versus what's the brightest spot?
The contrast that is formed between the light and the dark.
Okay, these decisions are fairly technical, yes, but mathematical in the sense of numbers to these things. But in the choices of lights, it therefore goes much beyond just the look of it over. So like even these lights, they great sculptural pieces. But there's a reason why I think it's gold and not silver. There are very practical, tangible reasons for it.
I'll say a word which you have not touched upon, and I know it will touch a raw nerve because it's a tricky one. Restaurants lighting. Because why are we going there and literally like the new restaurants like opening our phone and trying to look at it? What's going on? Like something is amiss.
Mood bana raha hai.
But ministry makes
Making me super.
I think creating that contrast, I think it came from creating that light and dark, and then eventually they said, okay, let's cut off the light part of it and then make it totally dark, I guess.
So I think there's a good point in hospitality, F&B.
I think even hotel rooms. Very few hotel rooms where you switch on and you feel like, it has the right amount of light to get dressed or see yourself or whatever, read a book or whatever. You don't sometimes just want that gooseneck or reading lights on your thing. But a lot of hotel lights, because of maybe they don't want to do a false ceiling, and that's why they're not going to be able to put technical lighting as much as they want, whatever the reason may be. But hotel room lighting has been a problem which is, it's still, very few people have sorted it out.
in restaurants, I'll give you a spin off, right? Cafes. Now, the thing is, cafes, like, for the inherent sentiment of a cafe, it's a free time. But most cafes actually make more money on alcohol sales than we. So, so a lot of the F&B outlets now, and they are all now, basically everyone knows you will only make money if people stay long. Like, if you can get someone to sit in your eatery for 3 or 4 hours, then अच्छा पैसा कमाते हैं. वरना वो आए गए होता नहीं. So those transitions, yes. So then those transitions is actually this thing of also daytime lighting in the cafe. You want to think about what is going to be in the daytime and what is it going to become in the evening. So that, and a lot of the work culture also spills over in that sense. So nothing ever earlier, I would say even 10 years back, there was very clear, this is a fine dining restaurant. This is a nightclub. Nightclubs used to be this universe of lighting aspects that people used to found in, these hotel, these sports and stuff, because they were all meant to event like massive amounts of expense. Now everyone has understood that F&B is also blurred. It's not these strict silos. People go, pressure of earning money is on everyone. You can't have a place that operates PR.
The lighting and the fact that now, its transition is sort of very fluid from one usage to another in terms of timing. Even the ID has transformed because it's not like a daytime or an evening. It's something which can transcend. Whatever.
I mean, even seeing for restaurants, I think the problem remains. The awareness. I think we work with amazing hospitality.
Yeah, it's not a great restaurant, you're bad.
But then it's not just government projects. Even these projects, we are still struggling to make them understand the value of a technical picture. Leave aside the decorative art. Decorative, so we will take care. We will saw the aesthetics, it's switched on, switched off. But the mood of the place, the
music, the
the senses, but if the light is falling directly on your food, it looks more appetizing. The colors need to come alive. But
The color of the lighting impacts the food. When the light has a certain color render, the food doesn't look good. These are the things that one learned over the years. You don't ever use these colors.
That's why it becomes important because now the restaurant business is also quite technical. Ever since the MasterChef revolution to the way everyone understands what food, the effort to be put into making the food. Then it becomes equally important that you look after lighting as a designer. Because then that food has to have that effects level quality, right? Till it enters the consumer and the client's mouth, in the restaurant. So I think even there's a huge scope, but like he said, the information is not obviously there aren't enough lighting designers. There aren't enough clients who consider lighting design as an important.
Yeah, that's the point. At one point, architects were not considered important or required. Then interior architects were not considered it. So I think over the years, those things have come into the range of required services. Similarly, I think the lighting designers need to be brought into the mainstream as a part of required services. Only then will we have many other sub-consultants have now got the recognition, but lighting designers are still a little bit sort of lagging.
Do you all work with Sumit? Do you work with light designers, or do you is it your area of
we
expertise?
insist we work with that.
We work with lighting designers.
strongly insist that you have a lighting designer on board. See, as a creative person, it's our thing with director piece. But we're not always experts about
That's not our core competency.
Exactly. So we know what needs to happen, how to make it happen. There are various consultants for that.
And they will make it happen better.
Exactly.
You have an intent. They will enhance that intent. That's the idea.
And it's a technical thing. It cannot be possible for us to keep up with what's the latest things to achieve the same goals. What we can do is, as part of the larger design scheme of things, we can sort of give places an index for direction that is the nature of lighting we want. And then on the level of granular performance, we can have a technical discussion. But to basically achieve that goal, you need to know what's available, who's making what. Like, it involves a lot of travel, going, checking out facility, figuring out how these lights are made.
And the technical aspect of that light.
Yeah.
I mean, what it's going to give, what it's going to create, that also.
You want to something like, do you work with light designers or is Wooden?
A lot of that. He pay. I think to the last, I would say 6-7 years, it's become a constant now for AP. And it is.
But it is challenge. It's only your planning. It's not easy.
There is a difference between, let's say, evolving in NEC consulting and the lighting. So NEP is very technical. But when it comes to a lighting consulting, especially when he's designing something, as an architect, my thought process and his thought process might be different. So that ways, a lot of times there will be contradictions. But having said that, eventually, see, one person has to be the captain of the ship. And in our case, obviously, I would want to be the light. I don't
But
want.
you need to be the captain of the ship.
No, I'm not. Yeah, and I'm not saying lighting consultant should not be. He should be there, but a lot of times, again, let's say if the client is not comfortable with going ahead with my selection, he'll say somebody won't do him and you work with him. The quality of lighting consultants here in India till now is not as good as the kind of. So earlier it used to be NEP. Today NEP is cool, perfect. But lighting, maybe I'll be comfortable with one or two people, but not everyone.
No, I mean, basically lighting in some project types, a lighting designer has got accepted and they understand that for larger projects, mixed use developments, hospitality, campus, you do require a lighting designer. But when it comes to other project types, homes,
Even for homes, you need a light.
that's what I'm saying.
I mean, that's where the biggest.
That's where the challenge is.
There. So again, depending upon who the lighting consultant is, in case if he's working, let's say Vinayak is working with us on a lot of projects, so he understands. But when it comes to somebody who's new, because of there can be a lot of reasons. These newcomers, again, they're not paid decently, so they're also trying to take shortcuts. I won't completely blame them, but having said that, there can be a lot of reasons. So, with my experience, what we've realized is that you cannot just leave it on a lighting consultant. You need to be involved with them. That is what I was trying to, because the students are there. A lot of times during our initial projects with the lighting consultants, we were so kind of confident about them. Chhod do inke hath mein, they do better than us.
Like any other consulting, it was not happening.
As you said, you're the captain of the ship.
You are the captain, you are like the sort of person who is directing the entire orchestra.
You will have to think of the idea to fix the problem.
And with time, we've come up, now we know maybe 75 to 80% of alternates which we know maybe it might work because of repetitive this yeah.
So, but I have a point here. A lot of the larger lighting brands, right? They build in a lighting design consultancy into their
There
product.
was no aspect of that.
So that is a problematic thing.
Yes,
You know,
I totally agree with you on this, but then two things to this. As Sumit was putting it, right? You get a lighting designer on board right from the word go. The job of the lighting designer is to kind of ensure that the architecture of the interiors that he's building is enhancing that. It has to be in tandem with the pursuit of the design, right? It cannot be haywire. And as he rightly put in, you go haywire in terms of working more towards fixtures. It is what I had learned back in the day was lighting design is not done based on fixtures. We are part of design, right? And then you try and find fixtures which can do that job. Now it's not brand specific.
Anyway, lighting, I always experience it's more of a hit and try. A lot of the times, and that's fun.
That's why you need mock-ups.
Yeah, yes. So it's fun when you actually try something, when you try and experiment. A lot of time, what you feel might not be right for the project is looking wow, and that's how we. Again, recently I did my studio, and because it was my own studio, I had freedom, and we kept doing mock-ups, and the end result, at least to me, is acceptable too, and I'm very happy about it. We've used within one area. We've used so one side is the client side, where we've gone for 3000 Kelvin, and the other side, so it's an open plan concept, and the other side is my team. So there, obviously, I wanted to have 4000. So initially, so I had spoken with a lot of people. They said might not look nice going with 3000 and 4000. But today, when you come, I mean, you might not even feel that transition. It's merging so well, and it was
Works very well. We do that all the time, and I know it works very well.
it's working beautifully, and I'm so happy that within one area we've used two kinds of temperature methods. It's working perfectly.
No, but talking about lighting brands who have developed in-house capabilities or consultancy capabilities, what happens is that in homes and smaller projects where you do want that lighting designer, but you cannot get one because of either the client not wanting to pay that extra price or whatever, this has actually become a way of getting, yes.
It has its plus points.
Yeah.
There are some.
But obviously then they will only use the lighting that their brands get, which is a given. But it's something which under a circumstance where nothing else is happening, maybe that's a way forward.
This is the sort of practical facilitation that very often designers have to take. You have to make that decision based on also the parameters. You can't be like, I only use lighting designers and I will not do a project of a light. But having said that, the decision continues to be a technical decision. Whether it is your befuddled way of going about as a sort of general designer, you're sort of dipping into the universe of technical aspects of lighting design as a thing. If it is when some schematic sort of decisions have been made and then the specifics to leave to the brand. If it is like for a government end, then you need a spec list from a technical person that at least the brands will respond.
Yeah.
Otherwise it becomes an invalid tender. So it's
And that you cannot put together.
Yeah.
Either a lighting designer puts together or a brand puts together. It's like a fact.
Again, now when we are using LEDs, again, most of the time you see these problems if you're using the different brand because of whatever.
Yeah, there's some variation, but
They're all.
This is
So
something.
this is a recent development, and now we started requesting the vendors or the clients that at least use the backend from same.
one company.
Yeah.
Sumit, even then it doesn't help out. I'll tell you what, so it's to do with what we call as the binning of the LEDs. Two best brands in the world as well cannot have the same colors of the same binning.
For IP reasons.
No, the way LEDs are made.
It's also
That's
to
exactly
make the performances.
The manufacturer is same still like
No, that is the only time in that
That's what
has
I'm
not
saying. We've now started dangerous that the manufacturer has
to be the same, because in a space, if you think, I've seen lighting designer put 5 different brands in the same space doing, say, forget, okay, we're not even talking about layered lighting, right? When we talk about layers, or if, okay, we have a different layer for X situation, we understand. It won't get merged with the general lighting so easily. But imagine in general lighting, when you're using 3 to 4 different brands, you will see that.
So that is what we have.
Exactly.
The chip
Is so.
manufacturer, but the chip has to be the same. That is what we will.
I think not even the manufacturer, because
Here, I think you should provide that clarity that when you guys see a finished lighting product, it's actually a component of about five different processes of procurement that are global. So chip could be made in China, the reflector will be made in Germany, the glassware is coming from Austria. and somewhere in the geography of the world they're being assembled from where they'll be shipped. So that entire thing, each of those is a different variable. So even if you go to Italy, the designers there are taking products or components from other places and are assembling them there for product designs.
So just to add to this, so think about it. You've got two brands. I mean, so two different brands using the same LED chip. It could still be different. Until it's
Performance, the other components will be different.
yes, but even the reflector, which plays a major role, or the optics, right, which would play a major role, and then the same vendor also using the chip but with two different bins can be a same issue.
Plus
So it's about
the
multiple
use of, even if you take two top of the line brands,
yes.
what you would do with the lighting or how you would do it in your ceiling with one will not be the same for the other.
Totally.
So that's where the difference will be.
Exactly.
So it is so vendor based in that sense, or a brand based item.
Other choke point in this is automation. So the auto, because you'll do all this deciding, oh, this is what I want it to look like when the lights are on. But now so much of commercial, hospitality and residential is based on home automation systems. Now those are very few in number, the good ones. There are a handful, and maybe 2 or 3, maybe whatever. Now things are changing quite rapidly. But there are equivalent app-based automations also, which are not literally sort of they're faking an Internet of Things. It's not actually, it's all based off of Wi-Fi, but it's not actually an automation system that is the brain controlling what's happening where. So, you want your lights to turn on somewhere, turn off somewhere, here's color temperature elsewhere. Those are highly technical parameters for the home automation system to control. So that language capability lies with very few. That how your grand fitting and fixture sits with that OS, the operating system of that automation system.
That makes a difference.
Makes a huge difference on how it. And so flicker rate is a very good example. Perfect light.
Some will dim down to 25% only. Some will dim down to 10%. So there is a difference in how each light performs with whichever object. Yeah.
So it's a
Getting those components to kind of match while you're doing the automation, or basically making the automation match the components. It's a
And again is an L1 problem.
So this all can only be done when it's a privately controlled project. When it's a government project, it's or a hospitality. See, hospitality also still the brands do understand to some extent.
They could sell this.
Yeah, but in a public sector, it's really like it's Mickey Mouse.
That's where you're part.
Yeah.
Lovely. I've been smiling because it's such a joy to watch you guys talk about these subjects. I mean, clearly it's coming from a lot of passion and a lot of experience and a lot of dates. I'm still on my icebreaker question. It's been an hour. So, what happened to my other 15 questions? I emailed them to you. Answer at your own convenience. But yeah, it was amazing. A lot of, I think, interesting questions. But
This whole thing of lighting is like, it's like literally a whole universe of design choices.
Yeah.
It's rich with that.
Yeah.
So actually, you sit down and talk about lighting thing. I mean, I'm sure when you go for your lighting conferences and expos, that's pretty much like a 3-day, 4-day agenda.
So in fact, now they always insist, whichever client, that you have to spend some time in an experience center where you go through a gamut of different things that the lighting can do or cannot do.
So I think we are about time now. I'll quickly ask one question which I want to ask, and we'll try and keep it brief because then I also want the students to ask questions. I'm sure that I do. You touched upon government sector and how the government lights, and as a non-architect, it didn't occur to me. I would say, okay, to my daughter, let's go and see the lights.
Bombay person.
Yeah, I was thinking, yeah, because if you go to South Bombay, like all these buildings and all later. But which is that one country or one city where you all have been at night and you've said this city is
Paris, undoubtedly.
I mean, and they've been doing it for like 100 years.
yeah.
I think that's it.
Undoubtedly.
Yeah. What do they get right?
Yes, their sense of public space aesthetics still
Yeah.
is top.
Well, what do they get right in light?
It is this idea that firstly I think there is an integrity to what is it that is you are trying to prolong in a public space. Is it heritage? Is it a vibrant public space like like a market or something like that? A food market, for example, or a Christmas market or something. They are very, very sensitive to what is the nature of space that they get. It's not a blanket public space, which is what the problem here I fear, and it's not so much in Bombay, but here I fear is there is a certain panic when the government or local governments need to deal with this idea of public space writing. There is panic. They don't know करना क्या है because उनका दिमाग चलता है कि इसको हम safe and secure कैसे. So either they flood like the hell out of the place. Right? Yeah, just like one stadium style lighting.
Is that what is happening on the walkways of Delhi?
Yeah.
I mean, you have three different types of light. One is trying to diffuse like this light everywhere around. One is the light from the top, and then you have some
It's total panic, and that is very unfortunate because as citizens of a city or as people who choose public space, that's one democratic value that we cannot agree to share is that all types of people move around in public spaces. Not all types fit to go to malls, not all types fit to go to hotels, not all types to work in offices. But public, and the thing is, the dividends it takes, people will start feeling happier with their city, prouder of their public space. They behave better in public spaces. Tourism gets a boost because even as a tourist, you don't want to see Chandigarh is a good example. Iconic public spaces. No thought to what is the meaning of that public spaces at what time of a day. So you will have situations where you say, oh, such a waste of a public be lit so well, so many things could be done because it's a unique city in the world.
Yeah.
Huge tourism asset. Right?
But not public space.
Yeah, and what I'm going to say is, what do people know about Chandigarh is Kedi Marte ho, Gadi. So
It's not the quality of the public space that has been created, but it's this
and it is,
that you can drive.
yeah, it's unique.
Unique city, I mean.
People come architects come to the world. Each famous architect I know or designer I know happens to visit. They always do this.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Of course. You call it architecture
And
tourism.
Chandigarh and Kabuzier's thing was about light rendition. This whole
But most of these cities internationally,
No, that-
I knew at least few of them, they have these lighting master plans, like you have architectural master plans, they have lighting master plans. So when they plan a city, it's in totality, it's not like in segments as such, right? So the entire scheme of things is done in such a way. So we work with one of the companies and, they work in the city of Lyon. So Lyon also has a lighting master plan. So the way
big city festival which
yeah, exactly. So they transform the entire city in such a manner that it's everything. So at that point of time, even Mickey Mouse looks good because the way they have transformed it is with the thought process, with the plan, right? It's not just kind of doing it randomly. So I think evolving the design thought process and kind of integrating it together into the city, it's very, very important. Rather than just going, okay, fine, I'll light up this element individually and this one now like this, or probably having different stakeholders do different things. That's the time when it goes for a toss because everybody thinks differently. So
and also this flexibility is important in public spaces in that. Let's say you take Berlin for example, right? Berlin hosts some incredibly sort of public parties, right? Whether it's Oktoberfest or the rave season or whatever. Where the lighting plan is meant for a party. So it is meant to be striking, it's event lighting. But the rest of the time it doesn't stay like that. यहाँ पे क्या है that if we happen to host in any of our cities a public event, right, whether it's governmental, private, whatever, at that time the local government decides हाँ ये मौका है इसमें पैसे खर्चो public lighting.
And then it's for them.
And then that's it. It's that party setting all the time.
Thank you so much. Any questions, students? Come on, I'm sure you have like studying this. Must be some questions around lights that you want to ask.
I think this is also one of the things. Probably, I don't know. Really, I'm not an architect, so I'm not a designer at all. But I don't know whether, as a subject, lighting is there and how much of exposure to lighting is there at the time of.
I've learned everything about lighting after joining the profession.
Exactly.
Not in.
As I said, natural light is, but the whole aspect of what artificial light means.
Natural light, lots.
Yeah.
But artificial light, zero.
Yeah.
Everything we have
thought as
learned,
it's not even
we can try project to project, project to project.
It's not even thought as a subset of electrical design, electrical engineering, which is a service engineering course that you do.
That's a big gap now that needs to be full.
And
What are we
especially
missing?
so a lot
At
of
least they could have some guest lectures and things like that. That's not any.
something I mentioned.
Now, these days, they are having at least a lecture.
Okay.
No, but I want to mention one more thing. Yeah,
It
I
was
want to mention
there.
one more thing. I think that all of us can vouch for the fact that it's very difficult to draw the line in our practices between architecture and interior design, right? I think we are now at the fag end of interior design as a profession, not as a.
I call it interior architecture.
Yeah, so it is now at the fag end of getting step multiple people, right? The fact is whether it's air conditioning, lighting, electricals, automation, the interface is not with the architect, it's with the interior design, right? So it's about time there needs to be a technological upgrade to interior design curriculum. There needs to be a theoretical upgrade to interior design theory, in the sense you need to sort of look at it as a theoretical process, not just as a practical thing कि उसको ये material लगा वो बात पड़ेगी.
It's not about slapping on materials anymore.
Yeah.
It's about creating spaces
Experience.
and experiences. And I think that is why it's no longer interior design, it's interior architecture, which so the transition from architecture into the interior architecture needs to be seamless.
Just to add to that, as students, as people who are learning design, we are learning design every day. Eventually, the onus is on you. Even today, whether or not the education system is trying to teaching you about lighting design, that does not matter. What you have to understand is that it is as much important as any other thing, or even more than the elements that you put in design.
It's about whatever the texture, material, color choices of this kind, like which everyone gets a lot of exposure to in interior design.
So you're doing that with stuff, with fairs anyway. Anyone who has an interest in design does look at magazines, does look at architecture. So it's again we always, as we have learned the hard way, we have somehow then we learned that technology. But as students, there should be, I think, people who are really serious should look at lighting and start, visiting fairs and visiting.
It's actually, you can make that choice as a student. You can say that, okay, I'm interested in this. I'm going to geek out on this. There's plenty of information there. Folks who are wishing to open up their, showrooms for you guys to come and visit. It really is depends on where you want to address.
It's like how proactive you want to be. And whether it's lighting, whether it is materials, whether it's graphics, whether it is, whichever discipline it is.
There's no lack of information.
Yeah.
You get, you just need to point in the right
Be
direction.
very, very proactive.
One thing which is very important for students is one part of it to be the theoretical part. But having said that, I would say practical experience is much more important to me, at least with my experience, as opposed to theory. Just to give you an example, things like sustainability. It's this overview, sustainability, or I tried talking about that human centric. And again, when the people are talking about, again, theoretically, it was so impactful to me that I had spoken to Vinayak about this thing, that same Coke, because it was a big brand, so सारे पंगे यहाँ लेते हैं. So I said, Vinayak, let's think about and let's try human-centric everything. So he said, good idea. So मैंने कहा धीरे-धीरे slowly, gradually we started pitching for it. And by the time the decision had to be made, Coke said, sorry, I mean, I'm not, no, we people are not at a pill for it. हम तो 24 घंटा काम करते हैं. हम रात को अगर
हमारे यहाँ बहुत यहाँ से रही है ह्यूमन रिसोर्सेज
हमारे पूरी सोले नहीं रात. So we don't want people to sleep at night. We want people to be awake. So हम तो रात को अच्छा, the best thing was
What more likely?
yeah.
What can you do at home? Look at your wife's eyes.
So instead of going from 4,000, they wanted to go to 6,000. So yeah, सोना yeah. कॉलेज की याद आ रही है. So
No, I don't make a nuance here.
and can
Yeah.
then I rechecked the plan. I said logically, on site we as designers want to do this thing, but technically as an employer, no employer would want his employee to sleep. So मैंने ये काम कहाँ हुआ आज तक? मैं globally कहीं हूँ. So that is
Okay, it's not being implemented. Only.
yes.
No.
See, no. I'm talking about offices. Maybe it might be good for hospitals, for a resident. But you think about any office, nobody would want their staff.
But that's exactly the point. Human-centric lighting is not about changing the color temperature only. It's also doing what Coke said to you, right? To ensuring that employees coming at night are not sleeping. So that's also in a way human-centric.
I mean, you get assembly lines where you need to be concentrating all the time. Research get injured. So then it becomes human-centric over there. Not for offices. You're completely right.
Office is productivity based, but if the idea is it's a human being and not an AI doing it, they do need downtime.
Again, in case if let's say रात को बता काम कर रहे हैं, तो वो कॉन्ट्रडिक्ट कर रहा है ना. रात को तो उसको सोने का टाइम. उसकी हेल्थ के साथ अगर मैं कर रहा हूँ, so what you're trying to say कि efficiency चाहिए तो फिर कुछ ज्यादातर ये चीज कर रहा है.
But conversation with this kid in my office जो रात भर बैठ के गेमिंग करता है, and अभी तो सोता कब है? दिन भर तो मैं काम करता हूँ, रात भर तेरे गेमिंग पार्टनर काम करते हैं.
तो बट वो जब ह्यूमन सेंट्रिक पे आते हैं तो फिर वो टेक्निकली वो इसके साथ एक और कॉन्टेक्स्ट ऐड करते हैं जिसकी हेल्थ इशू. वो कहते हैं कि रात को तो फिर हमारा 2000 और टेक्निकली 12 बजे तो वो ऑफ हो जाना चाहिए, अंधेरा हो जाना चाहिए. So that is where I was trying to ask him, and he said globally, even though it started from US, but nobody is following it. Even in US, Coke is expecting the same कि भाई दिन में तो नेचुरल लाइट है, रात को 4000 से 6000 तक.
क्योंकि नेचुरल लाइट से compete करें.
Yeah, so they don't want anyone to sleep.
But I just want to make a point
And
and on.
it is very stressful. 6000 is great.
Yeah, 6000 with flicker. 6000
ये हमारे कॉलेज डेज होते थे जब हम ट्यूबलाइट जला के काम करते थे. So हमें all I'm trying to say is that it has to be a good balance of theory and practicality. And practical knowledge is more important personally. That's what I feel. I am not generalizing it.
I want to tell you that you are a trained architect, right? The thing is that in architecture, like he says, we suffer from, when you do an architecture course, you suffer from chemistry. There's not enough information given to one practical decision making. I've noticed that interior design courses now swing the other way. They are preparing practical people who don't have conceptual. Yeah. So my point is, there is we can all vouch for it. In our various firms, there is no hard line कि ये हमारा architecture है, ये हमारा interior design. It's very obvious. So in many ways, there needs to be when we say that okay, now interior designers are coming, are sort of recognized as important people in the cog of building a space, right? Like equivalent to architects. Therefore, this balance in how it is taught also needs to be. Architects certainly need to go and be exposed to what is available in the market. Whereas interior designers, like you won't find our architecture school is willing like if you were a lighting showroom to talk about why this is right to be cam and why that is a bad looking at. Because like he said, they are still talking about natural light. Right? On the other hand, interior designers, they don't know how to handle the external window of the space that they occupy. Like, this is my window. How do I use this natural light to its maximum benefit? No idea. So, this imbalance one has to sort of sort out.
So before ending, finally, Coke, did they listen or not? अच्छा it did not happen.
सारे में मान रहे
अच्छा
फाइनली भाव करके मान रहे हो ना तेरा ना मेरा देती
Okay, so that's a big takeaway, guys. Like, you know what they're saying, that light is something that is not taught in school, and that it all depends on you. How much are you willing to learn or willing to get that, you know, exposure or to get that knowledge?
I want to add one thing, that every interior course needs to have a little bit of a stronger backing or background. Yes, which I feel currently is lacking in a lot of institutes. And they sometimes come out not knowing enough things which have a technical backing, you know. So I think that is one aspect where if the school is not teaching you, you need to take that initiative and learn through practical through projects.
or visit showrooms and places where you can
Not only lighting, for everything I'm
and
saying.
I'm telling you, light vendor mostly, if they are good vendors who are technically aware, will be more than happy to have tech with you, have like detailed discussions. The people who don't have the time today are the marketing guys. They don't, because they are like, you know, why? Until you have become a designer or an architect, you're of them well.
And it's very easy to access any of the sites. 200 रुपए देने that one access. हमने यही किया पाते हैं. Trust
So what we always do is that we create these lunch and learn sessions. Wherever you're working, you must insist on having these product presentations, lunch and learn sessions with all the industry partners. It's not only lighting, but all industry partners, because the amount you learn from your channel partners, your industry partners, is invaluable. They know what is happening. They are bringing in the latest from wherever, whatever. And I think it's a very exciting time where we are just learning every day. So I think this is a very important part.
Okay, thank you, everyone. You have a question? Yay! No!
In interior spaces, how do you use natural light as well as artificial light to enhance the materiality of the space? Like to experience the material in ways, how the light helps in those ways, like temperature wise, or what is the usage of light in that aspect?
The way I look at it, the most important decision you can make as a designer is first decide how is the light hitting that thing. Is it a surface? Is it furniture? Is it a cable? Is it a work surface? Is it a daytime space and evening time? Firstly, that practical idea of how far from the window, what kind of a cave, where will, those are decisions that by placing it in plan somewhere to decide. After that comes the technical aspects of this much natural light is going to fall at this angle. You know, windows very far away, it's pretty much non-existent based on how many objects you have between the window and so that's the story of natural light. Actually, it's the least technical thing. It's a very practical layout-based thing. Then the second aspect is once there is this thing which is sitting here, but I want it lit in a thing. That's when the technical aspects of lighting can artificially. So I always start with this here, or what is that baseline light that I need? What do I want as if it's a chair where I do want to talk about its glossiness or something, right? Or if it's a texture on the wall which is creating micro shadows and I want to express a texture come day or night, right? Then I need to already in my head write down that oh यहाँ पे फिर एक मुझे एक lighting addition करना होगा because this is not going to create like this in the daytime, you know.
Yeah, just to add to one of the very simple line that the first lighting designer I worked with told me, I don't know, it must be something that you can use a lot, is that you don't like a air. The idea of we've been living to very good spaces, right? From our, growing up, we have all our big spaces. It just feels that heavenly. So full idea is what are you lighting? At how you are lighting it. Again, based on the materiality or based on the color. So that's how, natural light would also fall in a particular direction. What was it hitting? So as a designer, what you want to enhance is totally your call. How you can do it, you have people like lighting designers or vendors who help you with that. Of course, you can go ahead and explore all the technical aspects of lighting as far as color entry and the intensity and the temperature. But just getting a story together and working with right people really helps.
I see you're not the you need that information to be able to talk to the lighting designer in the right vocabulary.
Also, what happens is that when you're looking at lateral light, you have the north side light, which is a more constant, more vital light. You have the south side light, which is a much warmer light. And as the sun goes down, it becomes even warmer. And then that transcends into your artificial light, So these things are very important, along with what they said about the colors or the textures that you want to actually enhance over there.
Thank you.
One more thing, especially when you're doing the lighting layout, just remember most of the time I've seen people doing a grid format. I mean, that's very normal. Till now, I would show you.
जैसा structure वैसा ले.
So what मजा आता है? If you are following the layout, the furniture layout, if you have to, let's say, focus this chair, वो light पर इसके हो सकता है. It need not follow a grid pattern. It can be anywhere. That's the basic, and trust me, most of the colleges would be following that grid pattern. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So that's not the right. I mean, you're not lighting up there. Yeah.
The weird thing is the source of the grid is the structural designer for structural engineer of the architect.
So
Basically,
it is the light which has to be experienced, not the source. You are making, the way Madhav said, light is not a piece of sculpture. Ideally, there should be light, but the source should not be seen. अगर ये कर सकते हो, तो that's the best way to design the light.
Also the easiest transition. And natural to artificial. If you have discrete light fixtures, that's a big advantage when you're trying to transition smoothly.
A lot of times we'll see a product getting highlighted, but we don't know where the source is, and we genuinely try and find cars here. And that's the best thing. आपको ढूंढना पड़ेगी ये कहाँ से आया. So just remember that, because I've seen most of the, not just students, even the architects following the same pattern. So that's one very important thing.
Just as it's glowing. You look at the fixture, it looks that it's a decorative fixture. That one strike of the golden element lights the whole wall. It's not any other addition that's kept on the door.
It's actually cutting down on
Yeah, I also wanted to ask that in my practice, I have struggled a lot with the clients for the color temperature of light. So the aesthetic choice of the light versus the functional choice of the client of the color temperature. So have you guys faced this problem, and how did you convince the clients in that case?
Just hold your own.
You have to put your foot down.
Put your foot down. No means no.
See, people get really brought up with tube lights. That's the whole problem. You've been seeing this blue light for years, and suddenly they don't understand that it's for that. It only when they are experienced and they have seen the light over and over and they've lived with it, they realize the benefit that you had one little opinion that you gave and they're stuck for. That's where a good designer has to strive for his value. You can't deny.
Not all these decisions, not many of these decisions you need to make on your own. I don't think, it's good practice to have a transparent relationship with the client, to share that these are the technical parameters. Very often it's good practice so that they don't end up suing you later. Good to have all of this down on paper. But the practical thing is that just like many of us don't have the technical knowledge, they don't have the technical. उनको क्या पता 3000 Kelvin 4000 के, right? But the fact is that if you are able to make that decision as part of a larger schematic, which they can appreciate, right? Then you don't need to get into the technical things with them. They will also trust to क्या the overall impact ambience environment है वो बढ़िया कर रहा है, उसमें हरी ट्विल लाइट की बात ही बता दी हुई.
Otherwise, नहीं माने तो क्यों नहीं बोल रहा?
They will see the process event.
Having a rubbing suit.
But now what has to put it?
I'm ready to sue Penny.
In the sense, look, a lot of these projects are very complicated. They have lots of stakeholders. There's a lot of money dragging on it. So a lot of your contractual obligations, especially when you do these technical things like writing, and you are basing it on some sub-consultant of yours, right? So you do need to know what you're talking about in terms of the jargon. You can't be completely off it. But that cannot define the design vision. Okay? The design vision is an aesthetic choice. The technicality is supported. You can't make that the focus and forget purpose.
Great. This was you do. Okay. Thank you so much. It's been absolute pleasure. It was such a fun, such an engaging conversation. As I said, I didn't even get to my point. But yet, learned so much. I'm sure these students also learned a lot. I did. I don't know much about lighting and architecture. And I love it in your private jokes. Like someone will say, like, what are they talking about? This is like a community thing.
It's like sharing pain points.
Yeah. So, and then he says something, I know what he's talking about. We all have been through that somewhere.
Yeah, sure. So thank you so much for taking enough time.